silence. You may be seated. Welcome to tonight's meeting. The first item on our agenda are citizen concerns. If there are any concerned citizens who would like to approach to the board, if you'd please state your name and address and the nature of your concern. Hearing none, we will move to approval of the agenda dated September 20th, 2016 with one addition.
Wait a minute.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So as I was, we will be to citizen concerns. Sir, thank you for being here. If you'd state your name and address.
My name is Charles J. Nelson, 2435 Charles Avenue, Salix, Iowa, 51052.
Yes, sir.
Over the past 20 years, I've been a landowner in Woodbury County, and I'm just curious how the drainage ditch board works. So I've been researching it, trying to figure out how. And I understand that the supervisors have given them the power to tax us, and I understand that, and you guys collect the tax. I'm just curious, in 20 years, I've never been asked to vote. So I've been trying to get that from Mr. McGill, Mr. Munger, the ditch board, trying to figure out how many votes you have, the whole process, and I can't get any answers.
Okay.
So that's one issue, and I don't expect it today. And then I guess I don't understand the accountability. You are collecting my money, taxpayers' money. I've asked for an audit. There's never been an audit performed. Nobody can give me a yearly summary of taxes collected, how they're spent. I just don't understand if this is a democracy. I'm not voting, I'm paying taxes, and I have no idea how it's spent.
So I have.
So, I mean, I have a bunch more questions, but that's just my general concern of what's going on, how it's run.
Sure.
And, you know, like I said, I've been a landowner for 20 years in Woodbury, a landowner for 15 years in Monona, and never asked to vote. And now they've increased my ditch tax and my mom over 400%. I'm just trying to figure out rhyme, reason, you know, what did it cost? Can I see the petition that was signed to authorize the work, you know, and how is it projected over the years? And who else is paying for it? Simple questions, I thought, but I just can't seem to get any answers.
And I would concur that those are simple questions that deserve the proper answers. I have been noting some of the email traffic. As you know, we like to.
I'm not here to cause trouble. I'm just trying. I'm just trying to understand.
Absolutely, and you need those answers. I have been following some of that email traffic back and forth. You know that we act as trustees. As there's a certain dollar threshold property owners are notified of in order to mitigate the same kind of situation that people don't want to be surprised. But all of that is publicly available. Pat, since I believe your name was invoked, right. Do you want to explain any information that you feel is outstanding or has not been provided?
Would you like me just to work through your questions that you have here?
Sure. You've said the questions were answered, and I just never have received an answer to any of them.
Well, I think we had a conversation on the phone, and I explained to you what I knew about drainage ditches. It was taught to me the first year that I was here 20 years ago by Jack Virtue. And the drainage ditch members are elected. They hold their own elections. And we really don't have anything to do with it. We've checked with the county attorney, and they said that we have no duty to do that. And we don't participate in those elections unless we've been asked. So when the landowners, they do a petition. We just went through a process that with the Upper Wolf Creek Drainage District. And they petitioned, and they can have an election, and they actually, when the drainage ditches are formed, they're under the Board of Supervisors, but the landowners can have an election and take over the management of those ditches, which those folks have done a long time ago. So they are responsible for their own election process. I have nothing to do with that. The county auditor's office has nothing to do with that, and I think I explained that to you. And as a landowner for over 20 years, and how to vote and how the process works, I don't know what their notification process is for in those drainage districts, but there's a, I don't know, Stan is here. Stan Munger is the attorney there. Stan, if you want, can you step up?
I can,
Stan?
and I've met Charlie before.
Okay.
Charlie, nice to meet you.
How are they notified, Stan, landowners?
Well, it depends on the size of
Could
the
you stand,
project.
could you go to the
Yes,
microphone?
I will stand here. It depends on the size of the projects, and because of Mr. Nelson's inquiry about lateral E, we've gone back and extensively researched it so we know the exact facts regarding lateral E, if that's what your complaint is.
His first question, Stan, was how are the drainage ditch, people who live in the drainage ditch, how are they notified of an election?
Okay. They're notified of an election by publication. And there are meetings leading up to the election where the election is discussed. And so the meetings that we have, just like you have a meeting right now, we'll discuss the election coming up and who's running and getting the ballots ready and those kinds of things.
I guess I'm going to have to interrupt because we do have a set time at this
I'm
point.
sorry.
Then we'll have to come back to this.
We will fulfill the set time on the agenda, and then we'll come right back to the citizen. So if you could just hold for a moment, I appreciate it very much.
So I went over time, I did my job.
We'll be
We're going
right
to bring it
to
back if that's all right, but,
this. This will take just a couple of minutes.
okay. So we are, can I go ahead and ask for approval of the agenda before we get
Yes.
to that item? So I'm going to move approval of the agenda dated September 20th, 2016, with the addition of, between items 8 and 9, receipt of the Upper Wolf Creek Drainage District canvassing. And we'll invite a second.
Second.
I have a motion and a second by Supervisor Smith. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no, and the agenda is approved. We will now move to item 8A, which is a public hearing and sale of property parcel number 122580, also known as 2600 Center Street. We are now in that public hearing. Is there anyone who would like to speak for or against the sale of this property?
Mr. Chairman, hearing no one, I move the hearing be closed.
I'll second that. The hearing is now closed now. Is there anyone who would like to bid on the sale?
You got to vote.
And thank you for the reminder that we should probably vote on that. So all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no, and the motion carries 5-0. The public hearing now being closed, we will entertain anyone who would like to bid on the sale of property number 122580, also known as 2600 Center Street. Hello. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
My name's Maria Aguirre. My minimum bid is $206.
$206 is the minimum bid. What was your last name, ma'am?
Aguirre?
Aguirre?
Yep.
Okay. Is there anyone else who would like to bid on the sale of this property?
Mr. Chairman,
Hearing none, I would move we close the sale of this property and award it to Maria.
second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. And the property is yours on a vote of 5-0. Heather Schotterwhite is in the back and has been assisting. She will continue to assist you. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, take care. Having dispensed now with item 8A, we are back to item 3, citizen concerns, and we will continue the discussion with Mr. Munger, if you would be so kind, and Mr. Nelson as well, in order to be able to receive the information that you are seeking from this board.
I just want to start with as far as the election is concerned, the publication. The elections that are held are very similar to the ones that we administer, and it is by public notification or public. published notice that you have an election.
Yes, and
Not everybody's aware of that when that notification goes out there, but there is a requirement to publish that in the newspaper.
yes, and the code provides for all that. We just follow the code, and we have followed the code.
So the question that was originally raised on the process of elections for how that is formulated, that has been answered. Other questions that we can take within this public purview that would be helpful?
Well, I'm just also curious on the annual report, annual summary, monies collected, money spent, how much Mr. Munger's paid every year.
And
how
that,
much, why is that not public record?
It is public record,
I
and
cannot get it.
that's when I did notify you. I talked to you and told you that those records are available in the recorder's office. Deputy Recorder Diane Swoboda Peterson is back there. These folks, they conduct the election, and each year when they have their meetings, they meet monthly. And I understand that Mr. Munger has informed you of when those meetings take place, and Ann Collins has a clerk in Mr. Munger's office.
I asked 3 times.
Every one of those is deposited in the recorder's office, and I've offered to you through the email that tells you that if you came in, she would be more than happy to show you where those records are located. And one of the questions you asked, would they be placed online? We're moving to do a lot of things, place things online, but the question is with a trustee drainage district, is that we've had discussions with Mr. Munger in the past about the drainage district. We would have to assess fees in order for us to do that type of work because it's the drainage ditch's responsibility to do that, and they're doing as much as they need to do. So after every meeting, the minutes are filed in the recorder's office. The recorder, deputy recorder, places them in a file. And I offered them to you to come in anytime, and she would show you exactly where those files are so that you could inspect them. That's a public record, and we meet the requirements.
May I add to that?
Sure.
Actually, there is an annual report. It's by statute, and we do an annual report every year, and we are required to publish it, and we do publish it. And that includes all of the money that we get in, all the money we spend, and the condition of the ditches, and just a general overall.
And where is that published, Mr. Munger?
It's published in the paper. I believe it's the Sioux City Journal.
Yeah.
And
And a copy would be made available if Mr. Nelson so requested?
Yeah, I guess I'm just kind of baffled because we keep talking Sloan Starlet, we're talking Sioux City Journal. You know, the folks are able to bill us every year for the taxes. You couldn't send us an absentee ballot, you know, type of thing. That's what I'm just trying to move, you know, maybe into the modern age where, you know, if I got to go to the recorder's office and get all the numbers and compile a spreadsheet, I will. But you just think that, you know, an annual report can be mailed, you know, to people or, you know, so that people know where the monies are going.
that would be a request that you could make of the trustees of the drainage district.
Yeah, this is helpful, yeah. No, it's-
Okay.
And I'd like to point out, because I know Mr. Nelson's been concerned about this, that we have told him previously, and I don't think he dispute that any information you need that we can provide in our office, we're happy to provide, including copies of the minutes, the annual report, anything you need, we're happy to provide to you. If it's public record, and by the way, our attorney's fees are a public record, and we submit them every month. They're in the record of the district, and they're approved as a claim every month, just like everybody else that has a claim to the district, including our time.
Sure.
And our fees.
And I believe in an email, I did state to you that I went over and opened the packet that the drainage districts filed with our office, and the financial record, that statement was in there. I believe I communicated that to you in the email.
Well, I hope that this has been somewhat helpful, at least as a starting place in order to get.
The only question I got left is like how they clean ditches out, how it's rated out to the folks, you know how that tax is determined.
Mr. Munger, do you want to briefly speak to the levying authority of the drainage district as far as the pro rata basis upon which they
Yes, I will.
levy?
Let me answer two questions that I know that goes with this. that Mr. Nelson asked about that topic. The first question was, why didn't he get notice of the lateral E being cleaned out, and where are the bids for the work we did on lateral E? And I would say to you, Mr. Nelson, that under Iowa Code Chapter 428.126, the size of that project was under $15,000. That's $15,000. And based on the Iowa Code, there's no requirement of notice, that the trustees have the discretion to make a decision as to how they want to clean it out for that amount of money without notice.
Now, your last meeting, he stated that was 55,000. So we might want to get the facts straight.
Well, let me make this fact straight, because I brought the documents with me, and I'm happy to give you a packet.
He said it was 55,000.
He may have said 55. I can only tell you that I have the records with me, and they say 15. And even, so just so the record's clear, that project was done for 15,000 or less. And the code doesn't require that we either let bids for that or give notice.
Because it was 15,000, but the threshold is,
Hundreds. Actually, the threshold for bids is $100,000 under the code. That's a fairly.
but I'm not talking for bid, I'm talking for public notification.
Okay, that's 50,000.
50,
50.
okay. Does that help clear up? Because it was actually 15. Okay, it was actually $15,000, that project, which was under the notification threshold.
Correct,
And that's why Mr. Nelson in this case was not notified.
correct.
Because you were not compelled statutorily to do so.
We weren't, but we had several meetings at which the cleanout was discussed, and claims were approved. In fact, Mr. Nelson attended. We have records, we keep minutes of who attends our meetings. Mr. Nelson was actually present for one of the meetings where we discussed laterally and talked about what the bills were and approved some claims. So notice is not just published. Notice is people coming to our meetings. I'm sure you appreciate it when people come to your meetings and get noticed personally by hearing what you say. And I'm not trying to put an extra onus on Mr. Nelson, but we have meetings every month. They're published ahead of time. And if you come to the meetings, you'd hear every lateral repair being discussed.
So from my perspective, and my hope is that this discussion under citizen concerns has answered some of those, at least initial or cursory questions.
The big one was the 400% increase to my mother, who's on fixed income. So now he's saying it's 15,000. I could kind of see it when it was over 50,000. So now I'm really baffled at how this thing is prorated out and how things are done.
I can explain that a little bit if you want me to. It won't
But
take
that, we can do that. I can do it offline.
Yeah, I think offline is probably more appropriate, or within the purview of that particular meeting, rather than under citizen concerns. But
So only one other thing that I'd like to discuss is the authority to audit, or you asked why I didn't audit that and asked me why I didn't do my job. That I don't have the authority to do that. I've asked the county attorney about that very provision, and they have offered, if you would like an opinion in writing, they will take it back to the office and do that for you if that's what you desire.
Yeah, I just find it very weird that they're able to collect public money and there's never an audit done. I
That's
guess working in the private sector, being a farmer rancher for 25 years, every year, you go through an audit.
As I explained in a previous email, I was baffled too about townships, small towns that have no audit requirement. The legislature obviously felt that it was too much of an onus to put on those small taxing authorities to do that. But it is, there is no requirement in the law to do that, and I do not have the authority to audit a drainage ditch.
I thank you for sharing your concerns. I thank you for being here to help, in part, potentially answer some of them, and any other interested parties who are here to hear the discussion.
Well, I appreciate Mr. Nelson asking the questions truly, and
I do.
appreciate your listening to what we have to say.
I do too. I sincerely appreciate the opportunity to clear it all up.
Thank you very much. Thank you. With items 2 through 4 being dispensed, we will move to item 5, which is approval of minutes of the September 13, 2016 meeting.
Move it.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no, and the motion carries 5-0. Item 6 is discussion and approval of the claims.
Move it.
I'll second. Is there discussion on the claims? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no, and the motion carries 5-0. Item 7 is good news. There's some more good news on top of this good news, which is energy efficiency rebates. We received checks for over $320,000. With that, there's newly identified rebates on a project that the county was going forward with anyway because it made so much sense, which is looking at the nearly 400 steam traps that would either be rebuilt or replaced in the courthouse. So there's $36,000 there. Having alerted Kenny and Shane, or been alerted by them of this good news item, I understand that there's an update to that. Do you want to go ahead and approach and tell us why that even this that we have in hand may be a little understated? And while Shane's doing that, I just want to thank the Baker Group's work because some of their identification is because of their work in the energy industry to be able to show what's reflected on this sheet.
So, Shane Albrecht with the Baker Group. This week, because I knew Supervisor Taylor was going to be making this, I called Dan Dana just to check on if we have received any more checks possible.
And Dan Dana is?
Dan Dana's with Mid-American Energy, sorry. He's our key account manager for Woodbury County, so he's in charge of facilitating to make sure you're getting the rebates and helping manage your account to help us with rebates. He brought us in more checks, so we were at about 3:30 before we got checks today, and we ended up with another just over $80,000 worth of more checks. So we actually exceeded we were hoping we were going to bring back to you $361,000 worth of rebates. Right now we're at 412, 495, and we still have more checks to come in. You ask, what's up? How come we got more rebates? One of the things that, because we did multiple projects at multiple different buildings, when you do 2 projects at a building, it kicks into what's called a bonus incentive. So because you're being energy conscious and doing it, you get incentivized to help bring the payback down to approaching the 3 to 5 years. They try to help kick back extra money. So the courthouse, the LEC, Trosper Hoyt, Siouxland District Health all receive bonus incentives, which is part of why we're at $50,000 over our estimated rebates, is because of bonus incentives that we received on our LED lighting project. So with that said, there's also some other good news with this. As you will see on the sheet, we had an overall budget, I think, of about $915,000. Right now, to date, we've spent $120,000 less than that, $119,495.66. We have some outstanding bills. We still have not paid ECHO the retainage because we've been trying to get some of these projects all finished, and retainage isn't paid out until everything is done, check back in and stuff. So with that said, with our extra $50,000 and that roughly $90,000 that'd be left, we have about a surplus of $140,000 in the LED lighting project, which is great news. One of the things that I wanted to talk with you guys about is there's some low-hanging fruit out there, some things that would make good sense. One of them is some flagpole lights. We only did things that were attached to the building and inside the building because a lot of the external things got too far in the weeds, so we didn't touch those. Dorothy Pico and the courthouse here have some very high-powered flagpole lights that could be changed out to a lower wattage LED that makes good sense. As far as you still get a rebate on that as well, but it's just more things that we could do. So that's one of the things that I would like to talk to you guys about at some point in time. This is just information that we will come and look for some of those other, what I would consider low-hanging fruit, things that we can pick off that help you get good return on your investment, quick payback, good things, and something that makes sense in our overall LED thing. One of the other things, we've talked a little bit, Supervisor Taylor again brought up lighting control, because although we put in good LEDs, Some of the places, the lights are staying on and they're not shutting off, so we've talked about some vacancy and occupancy sensors. Again, there's rebates associated with putting those in, so there'll be more money rebates coming back, but we could utilize some of this budget to do that if that's so chosen by you guys. Another thing that we could do, and this is kind of important to me, is there's some bonus incentives out there that you guys have yet to receive. And I kind of explained bonus incentives to you a little bit. But so what a bonus incentive, you have to do a second project to get the bonus for the first project, okay? So Trosper Hoyt right now, we have over $16,000 sitting out there as a bonus incentive. So if we do another project at Trosper Hoyt before our bonus time runs out, which is 1 year from when our last project was complete, we will receive the check for $16,000 from the LED lighting project that we already got. So whatever we pick to do there, we could pick any project that has a value and falls within their program, and we will get that $16,000 check. Climbing Hills, not to that magnitude, but they have about $3,500 sitting there. So if we do another project there, you will get a check. So even if the project costs $500, you'll get a check for $3,500. So it makes good monetary and fiscal sense to do these projects to achieve the bonus incentives. You have some bonus incentives out there that are only $110, $120. In some of your smaller buildings, they don't make sense to go spend $400 to try to get $110 back. I mean, but if there's a project that makes sense there, we have an additional $110 that can come back to help pay for it. That's everything kind of in a nutshell. Is there any questions?
Well, you can come back every week with this kind of stuff.
Well, personally, I'd like to see the bonus incentives bundled together as much as possible as the first idea, so to speak.
And like I said, our initial opinion the $16,000 one, picking off the $3,000 one, Mobille's got a couple just over $1,000. All those make great sense to try to get, bring the Trosper Hoyt one back and get those other ones done. The rest of the big buildings, we've already done 2 projects at. It just happened to be, when we were looking at the thing overall, we picked off a whole bunch of the big stuff that were the prescriptive part, but then we came back and said, hey, there's a couple things, like we picked off some T5 lights at Siouxland that Kenny was able to go install. Because we did that second project, we qualified for the bonus incentive there. Similar to the LEC and other different thing, we identified other projects that allowed us to be able to.
Kenny, did you replace the lights in the alley?
Yes.
They look nice. Are you going to put one on the end?
I don't think we need one on the end unless someone tells me different, because I think we're right at that.
Does the $140,000 have to be spent on?
Absolutely not.
I mean, it could be diverted to like the emergency.
Right. So right now,
that we're faced with, or.
you guys will have to answer this, but right now that was allocated in the CIP to do the lighting piece. You guys are the boss of the money. You can reallocate it to do whatever you want. I'm pretty sure is how that works, but yes. So the answer to that question is yes. Okay.
So you're going to bring this back?
Yeah, as we start, we've worked on Dorothy Pico right now and the courthouse, just getting numbers back on what we get for rebates to do those flagpole lights, and getting those projects qualified. One of the things to also notice, the steam traps, the $36,200, that's actually been pre-approved. The difference from just me telling you that it's what we project as a rebate, Mid-America, we took it before them, they looked at it, and we got the project pre-approved. So if we move forward and do it, we get 1 year from the pre-approval date that they can do it. I can ask for a 6-month extension, but that means they're saying, we looked at your project, you're going to get back $36,200. If our bids come in a little bit higher, that number can actually go up. Yes, sir.
Well, whether the money goes to terracotta, whether it goes to lighting controls or to gaining bonus incentives, it's a win having $140,000 within that budget. So thank you for your work, Kenny, for yours, and it's continuing to go swimmingly. Any other questions, discussion on that? So thank you for the good news upon good news. Item 7 and 8 are dispensed with. 8B is approval of a resolution for the notice of property sale parcel number 447046.
Move to set the public hearing and auction for October 4th at 4:30.
I'll second that. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no, and the public hearing is so set on a vote of 5-0. Item 9 is Human Resources, the Director Ed Gilliland. Item A is approval of the memorandum of personnel transaction.
I think that's where we are going to do the canvas.
Thank you very much, Auditor Gill. Ed, if you'll hold for just a moment.
Certainly.
I forgot an unwritten item on our approved agenda is to receive the canvassing of the Upper Wolf Creek Drainage District election. Auditor Gill.
The abstracted votes, Richard Benson, Patrick B. McGuire, and Arthur N. Kohlhoff each received 1,138 votes, and therefore we declare that Richard Benson, Patrick McGuire, and Arthur Kohlhoff duly elected to the office of the Upper Wolf Creek Drainage District Trustee for a term of 3 years. So I just need a motion to receive that.
Move it.
Second.
A motion and a second. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. And the motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Very much. Now, Ed, we are to your items. First one under 9A is approval of the memorandum of personnel transaction.
Move it.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no, and the motion carries 5-0. Item B is authorization to initiate the hiring process.
Move it.
I'll second. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no, and the motion carries 5-0. Item 9C is information on the policy updates to revise the employee handbook. This is some of the good work of the Policy Review Committee, and I ask that this be an information item in case there were questions, as this is quite wide-ranging. And with that, Ed, do you want to make any introductory remarks?
Really, the only thing I have to say for it is that we just tried to take the existing document, which was a solid document, make it a little more searchable, a little more readily accessible, if you would, when you're trying to look through it. We updated it to conform to current legislation, current court cases. And so it's really a restated employee handbook more than anything else. Tried to take out a couple of things that appeared to be conflicting, emphasize the importance of the collective bargaining agreement, and and the collective bargaining agreements actually do supersede the employee handbook, but we just wanted to make those kind of things clear.
Even little things like the table of contents being sequential.
Yes, yes, the pages are easy to follow now. And actually, we shortened the book, so it's actually a little smaller than it was before.
And just remind me that when you go through and you do revisions to the employee handbook, every employee receives a hard copy of this?
Every employee will receive a hard copy of it. We're seeking bids right now for the printing. And we also will send it out electronically. We'll post it on the website. So it's
And you do a little summary to say here are the substantive changes so that it's not, go ahead and find what's different?
So yes, so it's not massive. We have a little 5-page summary that we've done that we presented the board this time.
Okay.
And it does help point things out. Some of the things we're really just clarifying the law. As an example, if you look at the last one, it just says added reference to the early retirement continuation of health insurance coverage under Iowa Code 509A13. That wasn't referenced before, probably should have been. You know, some things like that. We had one sentence in the book that, as an example, appeared to be saying that you could violate our ethics code and be okay. So I worked, wait, this doesn't make any sense. But so we dumped that sentence and tried to revise that.
Ed, I have a question on the new policy under the dress and attire for employees?
Yes.
Who determines what's appropriate? How do you define
Well,
that?
it's somewhat department by department. It can be somewhat subjective. You know, my recommendation was that the language be a little more tighter, a little more precise, but really, this is something that needs to be determined by the individual elected officials and the individual department heads. As an example, in PJ's office, for Abby and those folks, they're going to be a little stricter dress code than the folks in building services. When they have court appearances, probably a suit and tie for the males, and very appropriate dress for the females would be in line. If you're public facing, like Mike Clayton's people or like Pat Gill's people who are public facing, you need to be well dressed.
Okay, so my definition of well-dressed may be different than someone else's definition. So if a department head or elected official thinks that dress is not appropriate, then does that come to you to
Yes,
decide
yeah.
if it is or not, or who determines ultimately?
We
since
would
it's so
work,
not defined?
and our purpose, and I want to emphasize first and foremost, our purpose in HR is always to serve the other department heads and to serve the elected officials. So we would work in a service kind of situation where we come in and we work with them to help determine what is most appropriate. You get into things that can be very subjective when it comes to deciding if a male or female's particular dress is business or business casual. It can be somewhat subjective, but we try to make it as reasonable as possible.
And it's often, the only reason I bring it up, it's oftentimes directed towards the way women dress more than men. So I want us just to be very careful about
And we do try to be very conscientious that way. And I know that was a question that, Pat, may I share? Pat, we came up with in the policy review committee, they said, well, we proposed that things that were too tight, things that were revealing, things that, shouldn't necessarily be appropriate. And first objection was, gee, well, isn't that sexist? And I said, no, quite honestly, it's not. If Pat comes in spandex, I'm sending him home. Because it'd be tight and revealing. And I mean, honestly, you don't, not that it would be my authority to be able to send Pat home. I would have to ask him to send himself home. But that's a whole other story. But,
well, just keep stats on it. I'd be curious if you get complaints along gender, which way it goes.
Yeah, we certainly will. And
Thank you.
big key is, I think, a professional and clean and accessible.
Appreciate all the work on this, especially the policy review committee. I think it's a good thing that not each one of these was put in front of our board to discuss, but that committee work has come back with this, and then we will anticipate that this will come back to them for action next week.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Item 10, Communications Center Glen Sedevy. This is approval of a fiber optic exchange agreement between Woodbury County, Starcom, the City of Sioux City, and Fibercom LLC. How are you, Glenn?
Good. Glenn Sedevy, Woodbury County 911 Communications Director. I'm here representing Starcom Executive Board. What we would like to do is a fiber infrastructure exchange agreement with Fibercom between the city, Woodbury County, and Starcom and Fibercom. A little background on this is when we installed the fiber optic infrastructure between 6th and Lewis and the WIT radio tower. It was constructed under federal grant when we were awarded through Starcom over 10 years ago. When we installed that infrastructure, we installed an additional empty duct for future use. And the time has come that we've got the capability of using this empty duct to get fiber optics connected from our 911 center all the way out to the west tower out by West Middle. The City of Sioux City has an empty fiber optic duct from West 18th and Hamilton that goes to 19th and Riverside. It's not broke out. It was done under another exchange agreement with Fibercom between them and the city. Under this agreement, at the cost of Fibercom, they will construct fiber optic cabling, break it out at each one of the intersections along West 19th, all the way from Hamilton to Riverside. They'll break it out to Fire Station 8, and they'll break it out to the Starcom radio tower at Fibercom's expense. for the use of this empty duct from 6th and Lewis to Western Iowa Tech Tower, the Starcom Tower. The reason it's front of the board here is because that empty duct actually belongs to Woodbury County, even though it's operated by Starcom, but under the grant it belongs to the county. It's a great deal for Starcom because Starcom we would have to budget huge amounts of money to construct our own fiber from WIT out to the West Tower.
Does this help in the future out at Dorothy Pico in any form or fashion?
What this will do is it'll get us connected to 19th and Riverside.
Okay.
And the city now has fiber optics that run north of 19th and Riverside up to the last intersection just south of the railroad tracks. I know there's some interest with Dorothy Pico to try to, in future years, to try to, or sooner than later, to try to build fiber or do some type of connection. So if we can get it to Dorothy Pico from that last intersection, that'll get it connected to downtown.
So this gets, would it be fair to say this gets us to the 50-yard line, or it gets us closer, so to speak?
Yeah, and even there's some interest. The city is going to build a campground up in that area. So there's also some interest. Do we want to try to extend it up to the campground? So the further we keep going, the better. The better off we are. But
Railroad Museum
the
probably
railroad
wouldn't mind.
museum. There are some issues going out that direction. We have to get permits from the railroad to go underneath the railroad, which is not. That's a doable thing. We just did one with the fire training, and then get easements along state right-of-way, along the highway. But this will get us a lot further than we are now. We have it in a capital improvement to build this from Hamilton to Riverside under a city CIP that's scheduled for the FY18 CIP budget. If we can get this accomplished, that'll free up those money for the city for other capital projects. But
Let them know that we're helping.
Yep, this is a win-win for the city, Starcom. What it will allow Starcom for the radio system is we would actually have a direct connection with our own fiber out to the tower. Currently, we use a microwave link, so we have a microwave radio that talks from the WIT tower to the West Tower, and then west to Homer Tower, and then round back to WIT. But this fiber would be the primary connection, and the microwave would be a redundant connection. So this has been in front. I worked with Mr. Widman and the city attorney in creating this agreement. So it's been through the legal process. It's been signed off by FiberCom. It's been signed off by the executive board of the Starcom. Once it gets through this hearing, it's scheduled to go in front of City Council next Monday.
Move it.
Second.
Let me just say
Motion and a
before you
second,
vote on it,
Supervisor Smith.
Is on WCICC, Glenn, it talks a lot about fiber. So the last several years, I've seen a real effort on your part to get a handle on where the fiber is, doing cooperative agreements. I mean, you have done a fabulous job. From where it started to where it is now, you've done marvelous things.
We're working on, and these exchange agreements it's a partnership with not only the city and county, but private industries
Is
too. So
Homer next?
I'm that close.
Great, thank you very much. And at FiberCom's expense. So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no.
Thank
And the
you.
motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Glenn. Appreciate your work. Item 11, the Planning and Zoning Director John Polello. First item A is receive rezoning petition application with referral to the Zoning Commission for public hearing and recommendation for property owner Lynette Menon, applicant Kyle and Tammy Molinex, in regards to the portion of GIS parcel number that is listed in your agenda.
I'll preface my remarks in the fact that we've got two agenda items, and in some ways they're companion agenda items in that they impact the same identical quarter-to-quarter section of rural Woodbury County. Mrs. Menon would like to sell about a 3-acre parcel to the Molinex family for single-family dwelling construction. the residential density within the quarter is at its maximum. So in order to provide the Mullinexes with a building permit, we need to rezone that particular piece she's selling of a larger parcel. This is a ag preservation to ag estate scenario. Most of the uses are identical between the two, except for the residential density allowed. We plan on scheduling this at the Board of Adjustments meeting on Monday, the 26th. Be happy to answer any questions.
Other questions or discussion?
You want us to approve sending this to commission?
We're asking you to refer and for public hearing and recommendation.
Move it.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. And the motion carries 5-0. Item B is to receive the rezoning petition application with referral to zoning commission for public hearing and recommendation for property owner Jimmy Lee and Renee T. Collier and applicant Woodbury County Planning and Zoning Commission in regards to the GIS listed in this agenda.
Okay. The Colliers own the balance, significant balance of the remainder of the quarter section. They were approached regarding the issue. They own 2 parcels on the other side of the right-of-way. They also have submitted an app for the same reasons. They want to have the ability to make their parcels legal conforming parcels and structures rather than non-conforming because of the density issue, as well as be able to have the opportunity to possibly further subdivide the quarter in the future should they be approached for sales. Happy to address any questions. We're again asking you to refer for public hearing and recommendation.
Move it.
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. And the motion carries 5-0. Thank you very
you.
much, John. Appreciate it. Item number 12 is our sheriff, Dave Drew. This is approval of a resolution fixing the date for a public hearing on the proposition of a lease purchase agreement for new radio equipment for the sheriff's office. And with that, Sheriff designee, Major Todd Wick, is approaching. And just so the supervisors know, this is something that is moving a little more quickly than we normally would, but it's because of some of the constraints which Major Wick can explain.
Or benefits.
Right.
Todd Wick, Sheriff's Office. Some questions?
With the all caps, are you yelling at us?
Pardon me?
With the all caps in the agenda item, are you yelling at us?
No, I need these. That's why I put it in all caps. I can't read it myself.
Can you?
I appreciate it, Todd.
You know, a bigger font would do the same thing, but don't tell him that, Sheriff. He. Okay. All right. So why don't we just start with this? It's a $680,000 is a little bit of money.
A little bit, yeah.
So this was originally a CIP budgeted item in the future.
Yes, 17-18.
Okay. So typically we don't take up FY18 budgeted items now while we're still in this fiscal year. So can you just explain so that the public knows what we're doing and why this is going to allow the sheriff's office to do what, and why are we looking at it sooner rather than later?
Originally, we were looking at doing this, like the chairman said, in the 17-18 CIP. We found out not too long ago that the state's on a faster pace as far as getting this radio system up and going. They plan on flipping the switch for the radio system December 14th, 2016. In order to prevent a lot of extra work for us, as far as touching all of our old radios, to get those radios to work on the state system and so forth, we had the opportunity through Motorola here to lease these a year in advance with no interest, no cost, and pay for them with the 17-18 CIP so that we could get our hands on these radios, get them programmed, and get what radios we could assign to our officers that would use them come December 14th.
Is this the same as Sioux City?
Yes, yes.
So the only thing I don't like in the terminology is lease, because there's no cost that's incurred to Woodbury County for this next year, is that correct?
Correct. Motorola's 3-year lease agreement allows for us to pay for these radios in full within 1 year without any kind of fee, cost, interest, or anything like that.
That threw me off when I heard, okay, we'll be able to lease these for a year, when in actuality, we are paying nothing for that year, nor paying any interest for that year, as long as we ultimately end up paying in the time parameters. And so they're allowing governmental bodies to get these radios and to get the equipment with when we would have already been paying for it on our timeline for FY18 anyway.
Correct.
Is all that right?
Correct.
And the only reason I'm stating that is it took me a few days to get my head wrapped around it.
So not paying anything, not paying a higher fee in 17, 18, same fee.
No, bid's the same for the radios.
So
Took me about 2 minutes.
Well, you're 20 times sharper, but you have the caps in front of you, so.
So Sioux City, as I heard it on the news, got some kind of a discount?
Because of the quantity and the amount of money they were spending, we're
We're not in that ballpark.
When we found out, trust me, I did call Motorola to ask if that was, if we were eligible for that 7%, and we were told no, because they're spending right at $2 million and we're spending $680.
So I'm going to bring this up just because it's been brought up to me today, so that there's no unanswered questions left out there. I understand that emergency services and conservation also have radio equipment and so on. I also understand that conservation has sworn officers. Is that a correct statement? And so the question's been raised, is this something that we ought to, and I know that tonight we're just taking action on the public hearing and fixing a date for it. Is there something that we need to look at additionally? And I see that Sheriff Bucket.
You know what? We have Lynn, who's an expert, and Joe, the Motorola man. But for me to weigh in on those guys, what I would say, it's up to the board. Does emergency services, they're going to be coming, I'm assuming, to ask for new radios. What would you think, Lynn? So if you might as well do them all at once if you're going to get the interest rate. I didn't look at it because I only care about my group, you know. So I never, but some people have been at those meetings. So I'm not sure where they're at, or I know Chief Young and I have been discussing it, the radios, and try to make, because we want to be on together. We want to make sure we don't. The others will still be able to communicate with everybody else. So that time frame would really be up to the board if you want to get emergency services and conservation, then probably not a bad time to do it now since it's interest free for a year leasing, but that's not in my area.
Where does the discount come in, you know?
It's the state bid.
No, I'm talking
I don't
about
think the
7%.
discount comes into your well up to almost, they were at 1.9 million.
Yeah, with the
That's-
discount, they were over $2 million without it. So
We won't be.
we weren't anywhere.
I was just wondering what we were talking about with emergency services.
I think a total of, there's 24 radios total maybe.
There's 32 total, and Mr. Brown said it estimated about 5,000 radio. So we're talking about another 150,000. So instead of 690, it'd be 840.
How many are you looking at?
Radios?
75 handhelds and 47 vehicles and vehicles and stations.
Are you on this system?
No. That's emergency services.
Were they in the CIP?
I was able to speak to Gary for about 5 minutes before the meeting, and he said that they were looking at this in the long term, maybe not this next year, but a couple of years out. And he was wondering if this would be advantageous to be a part of, or not. He said that they could continue to still communicate with rural fire departments and everyone else past this year.
Right.
But I think it's something that we should potentially look at and see if that makes sense to do, given that there will be a year or
Right.
not. I guess my question is, can we go ahead and set the public hearing and do so irrespective of where we go with that. Does that question make sense?
Yes, it does. I believe you can still go ahead and set the public hearing and
Okay.
just make sure that everything that you're going to be discussing is made clear in the agenda.
Okay. So with that, that's really our only action, and then we can follow up in the next week or so on information gathering of what would make sense regarding emergency services and conservation. Does that sound like a plan?
Yeah, as long as you can add them. Of course, I'm concerned about the CIP, the bonding and debt is what we're looking at here too.
And the one question I did ask Major Wick at some point is, could the board decide just not to do this at all? And I'm not saying that that would be the will of the board, but can you just briefly explain the necessity and why all counties are looking at something like this? Or?
Well, it's a great system, and now it's going to let us talk all the way across the state. We sent in our deputies to Dubuque the other day to pick up a substance abuse person and bring it back. We have no communication. Now, this whole system, interoperability with the whole state, we're going to be able to communicate while we're traveling. So it's a bonus. I mean, it's something that's going to put us leaps and bounds ahead. And to delay is, I don't think, very good for us. It's been dangerous before hauling prisoners to Anamosa, Fort Madison, and Clarinda, and we have no communication. It's hard to believe in the 21st century.
It is, so what do? Use cell phones?
Yeah, if we had to, but.
And hope you don't drop,
Stone
because
Age.
some of our rural areas.
So when are we going to set this hearing? Is there a
It'd
recommendation?
be next week at 4:45, I believe.
Next week?
Is that going to give time to get in contact with emergency services?
I think we should be able to discern and answer in the next 48 hours whether or not.
Should I yell my motion? I would move to set the public hearing for next Tuesday at 4:45.
I'll second. Is there a discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no, and the motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Item 13, Building Services. This is Director Kenny Schmitz. Item A is approval of a CMBA contract agreement. Kenny?
This item is a motion for approval on the LEC with Cannon Mossberger and Associates for a facility optimization plan. We've discussed this in the last two meetings on the possibilities and benefits of doing an entire facility plan. I've asked Cannon Mossberger to look at some short-term and mid-term items as part of this contract to determine some things that we could do that would be low-hanging fruit, that would also adjust some security issues that the jail currently has, and would allow us to plan for future CIP projects and fundings in that facility.
You know, I still have the same question I had last week, is we don't know that this remodeling is going to come in under budget, you know, that we can do it. So shouldn't we wait until then before we do an optimization plan?
I think Dennis can probably help me out a little bit on this. We talked to our bonding authority this week about different projects and whether some items fall under the $1.2 million threshold and how that's all determined. And I think one of the things I got from our meeting, and Dennis, you correct me if I'm wrong, is that if a project stands alone on its own, it would not be required to be part of a $1.2 million threshold for an expansion. I'm under the belief that an entire facility overview would stand alone as its own project, and therefore it wouldn't fall into the 1.2 million bonding, or $1.2 million threshold.
So you're saying there's no impact on that financial cost, and this could be done irrespective of the LEC expansion and optimize a certain area that has nothing to do with the clerk of courts area or somewhere else that could make them more efficient?
I believe that's correct. And let's just say we did another project, whether it was identified with this plan. Let's just say it was a clerk of courts area, which is now almost empty except for files. That, again, alone would be a standalone project. It would not be intertwined with the current LEC expansion that we're looking at. It would be a large enough project that it would be a standalone. So that's the take I got. Correct, Dennis?
And the key to all of this is we have separate public hearings, published public hearings for each individual project, separate bidding. When you have separate bidding, doesn't mean the same. They're going to have each different contractors. It could be, example, Klinger could bid low on all the projects and get them all, or any other company. But as long as you have the separate hearings, our bonding attorney will sign off on those, and if he signs off, that means we're legally clear of everything. And he made that very clear.
He did. And so I know that one of the board's first questions is this money allocated for? It hadn't been allocated for, although I do believe that we can reallocate some CIP funds from another project that we've identified to fund the project.
And you can always reallocate, but you can always add to a project. We do not borrow the money till the end of the year, April, May. So you can always amend, just like we do a regular budget amendment. You can always add projects during the fiscal year.
I would move to approve the CMBA contract agreement.
I'll second. Is there discussion?
Can I ask a
Supervisor
question?
Smith.
Actually, this is Larry.
Yes.
Were you thinking this was all the same project? Is that why you asked the question, or?
No, I don't, what I don't understand is we're going ahead with the remodeling project, correct?
Yes.
And then we're going to come back in and study whether the space that we just remodeled can be used for something else.
No, we're going to do a study on the entire facility.
You're going to skip everything that you're remodeling now.
Right, because that's already been studied. The same folks that spent 8 months and looking to those spaces have studied those spaces essentially. But many, many, many times during the LEC expansion committees, there was, well, what about this? What about the lack of a break room? Or what about the storage space that has bins right now that's taking this up? And what we said is, that's not part of the LEC expansion and the task of this committee, seeing if the Prairie Hills space can be programmatically reallocated here. If we want to at another time, that's something that could be studied on a, everything else but this 35%. So it's how do you make the other spaces more efficient, safer, and use the best. And I wanted to bring up, because I'll commend the board in the past for doing this. At some point, do you remember I don't know what you call it, the double bunking? Does anybody know what I'm talking about? Yeah. So that's the sort of thing where you took a limited and finite amount of space and said, we have to do with what we have, and so there's other creative ways of doing so. I think that's looking at the rest of the space and seeing how could we do so for safety and efficiency.
I agree. That's a perfect example of something that was identified, and it was a real space saver for the county at the time.
I wish you could sell me, but you haven't yet, because I just can't understand how that we can be remodeling second floor and the clerk of courts in one contract and then come along with another contract and say, well, we want to optimize the space, but we're going to ignore what we just did. Because if this second contract would address some of these issues, it could change what you're doing now.
Well,
I think it could.
The second floor remodel or expansion, it does somewhat affect the clerk of courts area. It doesn't address the whole area. It just identifies the things that we need to make that LEC expansion function. One of the things that we need is room for food storage. Now, whether we do anything else with that clerk of courts area is determined by something else. We're going to put a freezer, if we move forward with the LEC expansion, that freezer will go on the first floor, simply by virtue of design and other elements that come into play to force it to be there. The rest of the space may or may not sit empty and be not utilized for the lack of studying that area and the whole rest of the facility as far as that goes. Does that help?
It helps, but you still haven't sold me. It just seems like we're doing two things and addresses the same building and probably should address the same areas.
I think the only thing I would say is you may be missing the areas that this doesn't affect, the LEC expansion. And so we want to look at the rest of the facility, have somebody whose expertise is in jail construction and law enforcement facilities, and take a look at some of those other needs.
I'm not going to belabor the point. I just think it's backwards.
Well, we have a motion, and I will second it, if I haven't done so already. And so the motion is to approve the CMBA contract agreement. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Say no.
No.
And the motion carries 4-1. The second motion I would make is to reallocate the 2017 CIP B6-17 funds to the LEC optimization plan.
Second.
This is coming from B6-17 funds, which means essentially...
That's another fund that we've allocated for a project that's stipulated. I believe it was security, wasn't it?
Security and LEC.
Which are items that we are not going to utilize the funds for.
Is this something that still needs to be done?
Actually, the security items, if we move forward with the LEC expansion, will be covered underneath a lease agreement.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no.
No.
And the motion carries 4-1. The third item that you have, Kenny, is updates and positive outlook on county projects and energy efficiency steps. Have we covered the bulk of that? Or
I believe we covered the bulk of that early on.
Okay. Anything else that you wanted to add?
I just want to add that the numbers we're receiving in these rebates and the things that Shane talked about, like the additional projects at each building and the additional rebates that we can receive that are sitting there, I would have been totally unaware of. And so with that said, the Baker Group does have value or add value to these projects that we're doing. I fully hope and think that we'll be coming back with the board with some small items and low-hanging fruit on those energy projects that we can pick off so we can capitalize on those funds that are sitting there, like the Trosper Hoyt at $16,000. That money's just sitting there waiting for us to take it, basically. And we, again, as Shane said, we don't have to spend a huge dollar amount to receive that. It's basically already allotted and plugged into a program. So we'll definitely be looking at those. And I thank the Baker Group for bringing that forward and enlightening those things for us. So,
Thank you very much. Appreciate you, Kenny. Item 14, secondary roads, County Engineer Mark Nara. This is to receive and consider quotations for the extension of reinforced box culvert located in section 23-87-45 on 250th Street. Mark?
Good afternoon, Mark Nara, Woodbury County Engineer. Ben's passing around bid tabs on this project. This little culvert on 255th was a road raise was accommodated years ago using a wood head wall, and that head wall has failed. The road has been collapsing, getting narrower over the top of this box. The right way to do it is with a box culvert extension. This is a maintenance project, but it does require the service of a bridge contractor who can form and pour concrete. So we're taking quotations on this. We contacted 3 or 4 bidders, and it's less than $50,000, so we're not required to do bidding under 309.4. We're able to use the alternate procedures. The first quote is from Dixon Construction Company of Correctionville, Iowa. Their bid is $107,799. $107,799. Second one is from Graves Construction. Pardon? Their quote is $164,657. 164,657. Recommend the board receive the quotes and allow us to review them.
Move it.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no, and the motion carries 5-0.
Recess.
We will now recess the Board of Supervisors meeting and convene the Orton Slough Drainage District. Item 15 is to receive and consider quotations for the Orton Slough ditch cleanout.
Last year, as acting as trustees for the Orton Slough Drainage District, the Board of Supervisors repaired the existing 20-inch line and 2 intakes. The goal of the project and the feedback that the board had received from the landowners in the Orton Slough Drainage District was to make the system we have out there work as well as possible. Stage 1 was the repair of the intakes. Stage 2 was to acquire right-of-way and improve the ditch from the railroad structure just east of Old Highway 75 to the main intake for the Orton Slough Drainage District. The board has acquired the right-of-way for that project. We had been, that had been cleaned out once, but it was done by the district, but they didn't actually have an easement for the land. So we've now worked with the landowners and acquired that easement. The next job is to get out there and build it. The first quotation is from L.A. Carlson Contracting. This work was prepared for the district by INS Group. They did the plans, specifications, and prepared the bid documents. Total price, $38,364.10. 38,364.10. Second quote is from Johnston Excavating. I believe they're out of Whiting. Their bid is $48,400. 48400. recommend the trustees receive the bids and allow us to review them and make a recommendation.
Move it.
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no, and the motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Mark, have you heard anything more from Terry Lutz on his approaching the governor's office regarding the Orton Slough? And
We've not had any discussions on that. We've been kind of tied up with the IJR work,
Right.
but I can inquire. And
yeah, if you don't mind,
next week.
that would be great. Just because otherwise I feel like we're the Cornhuskers from last year coming up just short, and would like to at least be able to report back.
Very good.
Thank you.
Yeah, this would be required even if we were able to do Orton Slough Drainage District improvements, because this part of the project complements anything that would be done on the main line Orton Slough.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much. We will now adjourn the Orton Slough Drainage District meeting, continue the Board of Supervisors meeting. Item 16 is actually Supervisor Ung's, and this is approval of a resolution thanking and commending Jim Clark for his years of service to Woodbury County.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. He'll be here next week to receive this, and I would move to approve the resolution.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. And the motion carries 5-0. Thank you for that. Item 17, Chairman's Report. A, Siouxland District Health and CIP projects. I had this on the agenda last week. I just didn't talk it. But in our discussions with Siouxland District Health, that is a county building. And so one of the things that we spoke about is that they will be in the same CIP process as everyone else. And whether the Board of Supervisors deems a project worthy to go in any certain year, that'll be something that we ought to be responsible for. And so we just had that clarification. So I don't think that's anything on that, Dennis, that you want to add?
Oh, that'd be it.
Okay. Item B, a Rural Economic Development Committee meeting today, and David Gleiser, Director of Economic Development, created a product of that development committee in which he laid out some of the things that the board has taken as first steps, including the comprehensive plans, Simcoe dues participation, as well as participation in CDCs, and his proposal for an ordinance for tax exemption under 427B. And so that was put in front of the committee, and I anticipate that at some point Director Gleiser will come back and give a summation of that committee's work, and then that committee would likely sunset at the end of this year, having fulfilled its purpose. Item C is a survey of terracotta. My understanding, and Kenny's here if he wants to talk this, is that Mid-Continental is willing to come and offer at no cost a scope and budget of some of the identified areas. Having learned that, I wanted to make sure that you did as well.
They have, and we're working through that process. Joshua Widman requested that we get 2 bids on having the terracotta looked at. We've had 2 different companies contacted. Mid-Continental is one of them. Forest Incorporated is another. Forest wanted to charge us just to come and take a look. In other words, they wanted us to pay for travel time and their labor and time for being here. And Mid-Continental did come and inspect, and there is no charge. They've, on the emergency terracotta repair, they've given us a contract to look at. And I also received one from Forest Incorporated, and I sent those in, and Abby has reviewed the contracts. I suggested that in the future we're probably going to try to move forward with the Mid-Continental contract. And although I don't have a dollar amount on it, their contract, as was Forest, is based on time and material because they don't know what they're going to get into until they actually start a disassembly and see what the depth of the problem is. Abby reviewed the contract, asked for a couple changes. I returned those to Mid-Continental today. I think what they sent us is kind of a standard agreement form that they have that they spin off to everybody. That's the way it looked to me. So I don't know how receptive they are going to be to changes. We'll see. They haven't responded, but I expect to see something back hopefully in a couple of days, and we'll kind of go from there. But I expect to come back to the board, if not next week, the week after, requesting to move forward with that emergency repair.
Other questions?
The emergency repair is just that one place.
That's correct.
Nothing else.
That's correct.
But when you say that, and you're talking about the terracotta, there could be second and third order effects of that, correct? That would make it not just that one space, just so I'm understanding.
Yes. The way the terracotta is designed is they're pieced together kind of like a Jenga puzzle. They have to be taken apart in a certain manner to get them apart. And so the unknown is once they take that first piece out, are 2 or 3 additional pieces going to have to come out as well? That's really an unknown. That is on the emergency part that we're talking about, Larry, that we've got supported with straps right now. We also will be looking at the other areas of the building. There are a couple that we're concerned with. And what Mid-Continental is going to do for us is kind of put together a booklet that indicates what they believe should be done to address any other areas that we have that they feel needed repair might be as far as the rest of the building goes.
And then you would bid that out?
That is something that would have to be bid out, yes.
And did anybody find any of the paperwork on the last time that was done? Or when you found what's going on, were they stainless steel hooks or not?
Shane might be able to answer that question. He was actually up on the lift with Mid-Continental.
So, again, we've only been able to find the documents from 1980s, and we gave those to Mid-Continental. I went up with Frank Halsey from Mid-Continental, that's an expert in terracotta. When we looked at that area over at courtroom 203 that we have the piece falling, we can see the stainless steel rods.
So that has been done in the last go-around.
Okay. What we can see is it was not replaced or fixed properly in their opinion. The stainless steel rods that you can see, the cables, were just to try to hold it from a piece that had already fallen. You can still look up there and see all of the mild steel. Frank was nice to explain how this is all tied together and how the rods are and where you can see the broken piece and you can see the wires coming down. We actually spent the time to remove some grout and look up there. I found number nine wire that was just moving in that somebody just tied a piece in with, which isn't historic or a normal fix. Somebody's goal was to just hold this piece, and that has failed. We can move the cables after we got the grout out of the way. So these stainless steel cables aren't doing its task anymore, if that answers the question you want. Frank's opinion of the only reason why this piece is still in place and holding is the back rod may have 1 or 2 cells, because there's that whole, the reason Kenny's talking about this being a jigsaw puzzle, that whole soffit has a steel bar, 2 of them, one at the front, one at the back, that run the full length of that. Those pieces are slid down through holes in their cells. The piece that we're seeing that's falling is got that cell you can see up there after the grout's been removed. You can see where it's fractured, okay? You can see the stainless steel wires coming down to where that fracture is. So instead of somebody taking it down and fixing the piece, they just tried to stop it from falling more. And we've looked through the documents of what we have for plans. We can't find any other things, but we can see there's been work, Larry, so we need to look farther at that. We could see there's been work done because we went back through the 1980 plans. It doesn't show any of the control joints cut in either. Frank, again, this is his area of expertise. He told us how this all went together, what steps would have to happen to get it apart. They got to take the top off to get down to be able to see the piece, to see where all the wires are and all this stuff. He was actually, one of the things I thought was awesome about this, he said your terracotta has got some issues, but it's in very good shape. It's not, he's done from the Kansas City area. He goes, our terracotta with all the different freeze thaws is busted and pieces are ugly. Your stuff looks fantastic. It just has things that need to be taken care of or it won't continue to look fantastic. But he was very, very, very positive about everything he was seeing there about how good some of these things look. Now, we took him up and we showed him some of the brick that's failing up in the tower area. Again, I was very impressed by the fact they're going to come at no cost to the county, and they're going to physically figure out, they're doing this tomorrow, they're going to physically figure out how to get rigging so they can personally get eyes on all of the spaces, even above 8th floor, how they can get to be able to see it. Because when they give you a scope and a report, they want all those spaces to be evaluated. They were looking at caulk in the windows and telling you, this is something that'll last for another 2 years or something you should do now because you don't want to touch this again, in 2 years. So they were going to give us lineal feet numbers. I mean, to me, it's very good. They're coming tomorrow, again, at no cost to the county to look at the building. And they know if we're going to put this out for bid, they're not going to be, and he actually shared the fact that they do this free report for a number of people, and a lot of times they find out they're not the low bidder on the job, so they don't get the work because they know too much about the project before it goes out to bid, and they've had the conversations with the architects and with the owners, so they know what the expectation level is. So he said, we do a lot of this, and we don't actually get the work after we've spent all the time to do all the scopes. And they had no issue with that. That's part of what they do.
That's good. And I don't want to get too far afield, but the paint, is that to your satisfaction as a project manager and a building services director?
So now we're talking about courtroom 203, the windows.
Right.
I guess in a nutshell, the paint was not to our satisfaction the first time. It was even not to our satisfaction the second time. So for the third time the windows were painted, now it does pass our inspection. So we made them be repainted not once but twice, and then a third time because it didn't.
With the 20-year paint?
This is painted with a Tanemic paint. Unfortunately, we found they were not using the right primer for parts of the pieces, so we made them take it all back off and start over because we have a Tanemic primer that has to go on as part of the steps. So a part of our job as watching out for the county is making sure the steps are followed and they are done correctly so that you have a good project in the end.
Appreciate your
Does
quality
it make
control.
you feel a little better, Kenny?
Absolutely. The day that I was called to come and take a look at the paint the first time, and they were asking for my comments. I won't tell you what my comments were, but it did not look well.
And it wasn't up to any of the I brought Kenny over for a second opinion because it didn't meet any expectation of what I thought this should look like when it was done. So our first go around, it was painted with a brush and a roller. I expected this to be a sprayed finish, so it was a very smooth finish to look very nice. It did not. So.
Well, thank you both as a team for what you're doing in the oversight field. So, item D is the Ag Expo Center update. Next steps, October 21st. This goes before the IEDA on the potential $13.9 million incentive from the state, which acts as a reinvestment district. Fundraising has been going well, and they have about a $5 million goal that was exceeded. The $2.7 million has been raised with another $1 million promised additionally, what I would call soft pledges, and they continue to work through some of the architectural aspects. I'm on the architectural committee along with Supervisor Monson, and the emphasis, at least on my end, was to be prudent fiscally, but at the same time not do things that a couple or a few years down the road People have brought up the Tyson Event Center as of late, but you would want to walk back, or we should have invested here, especially on the amenities side, so that this is a first-class facility. They also have not only the principal architect, but a gentleman from Kentucky. Much like Goldberg has been for us on the justice and law enforcement side, this individual is expert in such facilities and has done the University of Alabama and Michigan and others, and knows these kind of facilities. So it sounds like things are going well, and I'll keep you updated in the future. Item E is the department head meeting. You'll see the agenda within the packets. I thought it was a good meeting. One of the things that was brought up, I just thought I'd share this. Actually, Gary Brown brought it up. As we move forward between the November election and the beginning of the year, just as far as how new department heads come on board, and we'll have we'll have a new supervisor with Supervisor Clausen's retirement, and as far as a kind of an orientation, so to speak. And I thought that wouldn't be a bad idea to start maybe interfacing, receiving backup materials, even old department head agendas and things like that, bylaws and so on, to just kind of be acquainted. I thought that was a good idea, and there was some other good discussion. Karen will have minutes out within the week, and talked a little bit about meeting with the respective liaisons and goals, and just highlight one more thing, that maybe next year, and this will obviously be up to the board as a whole, but we've been in every rural community, and by the end of the year, we've got 2 more to go, but maybe it'll be quarterly next year, maybe some other configuration thereof, but just to express the appreciation of department heads and elected officials taking their time. I think it sends a great message to our communities. And then the final one I have is Woodbury County Security Meeting. There was discussion of, there's some CIP funding, and Kenny, you can help me out with this as well. They're asking for, it's around $3,000 in video and sound equipment, and that's for when they are doing a trial for which there is audio-visual interfacing, and when somebody says, when they speak over each other, you can't hear. One person is cut out of the conversation, so when somebody says not guilty or guilty and that gets cut, that can be very problematic, as you may imagine, and they've had some real issues with that. And they were hoping that the board may be able to look at some reallocation of CIP funds, and it sounds like they are no longer worried about the going from keys to fobs, and with the clerk of courts having moved over here. And so, Kenny, do you have anything you wanted to share on that?
I think you gave a real good analogy of what their problems are with the delayed and the talk over. It's real problematic for them. I think to the point that they're worried about repercussions of lawsuits and not being able to discern what was actually said. The amount isn't large. I think it was around $3,600 if memory serves correct. And yes, we can reallocate some security funds to do that.
So if is there other questions or discussion on that? And then we are to item 18, reports on committee meetings.
Last week I attended E911 Service Board meeting. Major good news there, actually on a STARCOM CIP project, and that is also of great interest to emergency services and, of course, law enforcement, which is the upgrade of the area radio communications. There's $700,000 that had been budgeted. to double our working capacity through something called TDMA, time division multiple access, that allows several users to share the same frequency channel by dividing the signal into different time slots. Basically, more calls and regional communications can be sustained in an emergency, and it drops our dropped calls, so to speak, in emergencies to an even lower percentage. The good news is that it came in under budget. It not only came in under budget, $102,000, but that a Iowa wireless grant that Glenn said if he had traveled to Des Moines, I believe, to apply and speak for, was approved for $200,000. Woodbury County pays, I believe, 23% of the Starcom budget. It's based on population and things like that. Basically, this means that our next CIP year, where we had budgeted $80,000 for this project, we won't need any of that. So that's very good.
Great. All right, other committee meeting.
Go ahead, Ms. Smith.
Should I do it on landfill too?
Certainly.
Okay, I'll start with landfill. Larry and I attended a landfill meeting last Wednesday, and the discussion just centered around either leasing land or purchasing land for testing wells that the DNR is forcing us into. So there appears to be some leaching, and the landowners are both attorneys that don't live anywhere close to here, so we're not quite sure what kind of a deal we're going to get. So that's an update on that. Today I had a health committee meeting. We have $2,545,653 left in our health fund. Ed says it's a solid balance, better than 90% of other public entities. However, the trend of claims is going up. So there was some just kind of nasty talk today about a rate increase. So I don't want to go into that much at this late time, but that is something he's going to come back with. Also, we heard a presentation about a possible program that will be coming to the board. The group really liked it, on something that would target metabolic concerns in individuals and ultimately possibly lower healthcare costs if we buy into it, or some employees buy into it, but we'll bring that back too.
Great. In fact, I wanted to bring up, I think somebody brought up your name, Jackie, in the department head meeting, and it was concerning jail medical. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I do.
Do you want to?
I do know it. Yes. I can't remember exactly when it was, approximately a month ago or so. I ran across some information about, actually it was Medicaid reimbursement for 24-hour stays in either hospital. And right now, the county's being billed for that, and many, and the jail is paying that. We're paying that. But the article pointed at possibility of being reimbursed through federal dollars, and it seemed to be funds that weren't accessed by very many states or very many jails. So I handed that information over to Major Stallman, and he is like a pit bull with it. And actually, I have to commend him. He has really torn into this. He has researched it. He's made a lot of phone calls. And another kind of an offshoot is pre-existing conditions as well. So if someone comes into the jail and has a pre-existing condition, the county necessarily doesn't have to pay for those either, those expenses. So we're not quite sure how it's going to shake out with, I guess, our hospitals or doctors, but he's got a test case right now. And if our theory is correct, we think it's going to lead to some significant savings. So it's great news. I mean, we've been kind of doing a happy dance every time we get together, and I just waiting to roll it out until I knew that, you know, it really was going to go somewhere. But we're very hopeful that some of those healthcare costs are going to be brought down. So it's a good collaborative effort and the best I've ever had with you guys. So it's great.
I'd like to see Major Stallman's happy dance.
Actually, we did a fist bump. Maybe it was just a fist bump, but it was.
Thank you very much. Yeah, and it was Major Stillman brought that up, and hopefully, please keep us, both of you, informed. It would be if it sticks and that test case proves true, because that's one of our big expenses. So
That's why I did hours of research to try to find a solution to this.
all right, any other reports on committee meetings?
I was I attended a hospitalization committee meeting. It's big. It's 35 plus people. Hospitals, mental health. Law enforcement. I can't remember who else was in the room. And the issue used to be very contentious. They're getting a little better. The issue are these folks who end up in the hospital, substance abuse or mental illness, and then they get bounced to the other hospital, and then they get bounced to the jail, and then maybe mental health picks them up, Siouxland. The issue is how to deal with these folks, and it's really tough. The suggestion was to start working on social detox. That's a concept I heard about many years ago, kind of died on the vine. Shane Walter has volunteered to work with ISAC, see if we can get some things done in changing how all that's put together. Excellent meeting. The other one was, they call it the Street Project. I didn't make it to that. I had another meeting, but there were about 65, 70 people showed up. It's basically the homeless issue, and they are moving ahead slowly, coming up with some alternatives to dealing with the couple hundred people that we're dealing with on the street. So there's a lot of people involved, a lot of people concerned. It's going to cost a lot of money. That's all I got.
Thank you very much. Anything else? We then are to citizen concerns. Any concerned citizens? Or to board concerns and comments? Any concerned board members?
I have one. I don't
Yeah,
know
Supervisor Smith.
concern, but you know, there was the forum held at Morningside College last Thursday on raising the public or raising the minimum wage. Mary attended, had attended, and the member of the board, I was sat on the board, and Rhonda Capron from City Council sat on it, and Chris Hall, as well as someone who had worked for minimum wage. So it was kind of neat to see a collaborative event of 3 governmental bodies come together. I am going to submit a report because we had the Iowa policy, I think that's who it was, Chris Hall did it, committee run some numbers on if the minimum wage were raised this amount in Woodbury County, how many people would be lifted up? If we raised it another scenario, how many people would be lifted up? And wait till you see those numbers. They're awesome. I mean, on how we really could help people out. But I want to give it adequate amount of time, so I'll put it on as an information item.
Okay.
Did the city council volunteer to take this over?
I was just about to ask you, with a sitting city council person who I thought, you know, because we've heard government closest to the people, and I thought, well, 85 to 90% of our employers are, of course, in one urban area. We're kind of unique in that sense. I thought the next logical step would be Councilwoman Capron putting that on the city council's agenda. So I would assume or anticipate that she'll be doing so.
Well, no, because that wasn't her reason for coming. Her reason for
But I
coming-
saw that she was so supportive, so I would be shocked if she,
But,
if she
you know,
didn't.
Maybe it's a women's issue. You know, I looked at that. There were 3 women
And Chris
one
Hall?
man.
Okay.
And if you look at who's in poverty, many more women. Women don't make as much as men. I mean, it was just sort of like I sat there and looked at us. And so I don't not say anything to all the rest of you guys down here, but
It was a very informative meeting.
it was.
The board, I'm not chastising you, I just think the board should have been there. I was the only one there.
I need more than 48 hours notice and not on my mother's birthday, because if you want to see someone who really gets upset, Supervisor Clausen, if I missed that one, okay, I'll work on it. I'll let you know how that goes.
And really, the consensus was it would be nice if the state legislature would do it. But even the person who was holding the state legislative seat said, maybe it's time county leaders step up like the other 5 counties and at least look at it and study it and consider it. So I'll bring it back with the report.
I don't know if the city has been engaged in this or not.
I
It's
hear-
all been counted. I'm not positive.
Yeah. Well, I think Sioux City could lead the way. Yeah, I mean, especially
So
if,
could the county could lead the way,
could have, if we thought it was appropriate.
but
That's what I'm doing, Supervisor Clausen.
the paper said 30 people. I think there was closer like 50 people. Some people came in late. So
Well, thank you for the update.
there were both
Appreciate it.
sides of the argument presented. So that was a good discussion.
Very good. All right, any other board concerns and comments? Hearing none, let's adjourn. Record time.
No.